What's up, pretty people? I am Binz, and welcome back to the BRESTMAM series. This is the second episode of our series, where we will continue exploring the factory voted as the #1 Shapez Industries True Make Anything machine according to a poll organized by the APNBNWPS, or Association of People Named Binz Nakama Who Play Shapes. The previous and first video in our series was an introductory video intended primarily to whet your interest. I spoke to you about where we are in my journey through this game and gave a little mod review about Skimrify's Lots of Colors as well as Wire Plus community mods. Today, I'd like to gloss over the macro structure of the physical factory. So let's get that into view first. There we go. So this is the physical factory. Now, in case it wasn't clear, this BRESTMAM is a sequel to the BESTMAM, and as such I will be making a lot of comparisons between the two. Therefore, I'd like to issue another gentle reminder that, in case you haven't seen the BESTMAM series yet, you should do that first. I will leave a link in the description as well as at the end of the video, and I'm gonna start comparing the two directly right away, because in essence, my approach has remained the same. So, with that said, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Alright, that was a joke. Back to the factory. But seriously, the approach has generally stayed the same. There is a part of the factory that produces flat pieces, and another part of the factory is in charge of floating pieces. Now, the flat pieces are produced in these 4 vertically fitted modules right here, and each one is in charge of producing a remainder. A remainder is any given 1-layer shape that consists of up to 4 quadrants. We're working within Shapez Industries, which means that next to the 4 standard shape forms that are the circle, square, star, and windmill, these factories can also produce the 6 Shapez Industries exclusive combined variants, which are the pointy circle, rounded square, diamond flower, Tetris piece, and reversed windmill. Furthermore, these modules are capable of producing any of the 12 smelt scenarios that exist for flat pieces. And, of course, since we've thrown the Lots of Colors mod into the mix, those flat pieces can be produced in any combination of the 13 colors that we previously spoke about, plus uncolored. Then, we also have our floating pieces, and in this factory, they are produced on the left. Just like with the BESTMAM, there's a mechanic in place that will sort the floating pieces according to their base layer once they are produced, and redirect them into one of 3 combiner modules where all floating pieces with the same base layer meet to be combined. Then they optionally each move into an SLP, or Smelting and Layer Painting module, and then the flat and floating pieces converge in the bottom right section where they will all be stacked together. Finally, after stacking, there is one last Smelting and Layer Painting option for the final shapes, as that is one of the possible required steps in order to get some shapes produced. Now, a thing that in terms of setup I did notably different this time is the color input. For the floating pieces, I decided to split the color input from the shape input, meaning that initially all floating pieces will be produced uncolored. Now, the colors for those pieces originate in this top left section right here, and then I move them through the machine from left to right. You know those fast food places primarily popular in Asia, where you have a belt with food items passing by your table, where you can simply pick off the dishes that you'd like to eat? Well, the principle is kind of similar. The paint lines will move paint through the factory from left to right, and the paint will pass by various painter units that might require that paint. But the paint lines themselves don't have a predetermined destination. Instead, it will be the painter modules that receive instructions about whether their services are required or not. And if they are, then they will be in charge of picking the paint off the belts and using it for themselves. If they don't do that, then the paint will simply continue moving rightwards until it encounters a new machine, and that machine will, in turn, make the same consideration again. And if none of the machines take paint off the belt, then the paint will automatically end up in the post-stack layer painter all the way at the end of the production line. Now, about the inputs for this machine. I remember having had long rants about item producers and the ethics surrounding them in the past, and I'm also willing to admit that I have slightly changed my opinion on them because, let's face it, they do make life a lot easier. However, I did want the addition of Skimner Phi's Lots of Colors mod to constitute an extra challenge. And now, if I could draw all those extra colors straight from item producers, then where would be the fun in that, if you know what I mean, right? So I decided to impose another restriction on this machine, or a restriction on myself, if you will. And that restriction is that for item producers, I decided I would only be allowed to use any one of 7 values, or 7 inputs. A full circle, a full square, a full star, a full windmill, and then red paint, green paint, and blue paint. Any other paint or shapeform would have to be created by means of actual production units, okay? And that is how, for example, I have a complete vanilla logo maker hidden in this machine just so I could make this funky 5th layer work right here. I see that right now I don't have a 5th layer, so let's wait for a one to come in. Boom, done. So this is the 5th layer shape I decided to use, and as you can see, it has a vanilla logo stacked on top of a completely smelted circle. And in order to do that, I needed to have a complete vanilla logo maker hidden in my machine. Yeah, I know, we've established that I'm a nerd, but this is a thing I needed to do, okay? I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, and the color of the lowest layer of this 5th layer shape also changes color in function of the input, so the factory produces that too. So yeah, there we go. Other than that, this factory also has a buffer mode, an auto mode, and a purge mode, just like the last factory did, so I don't think that that part requires a lot of explanation. Once again, if you're interested to know how that works, it was explained in detail in the BRESTMAM series. Alright, today I wanted to do nothing more than give you a quick peek at the general setup of this factory. Nothing too detailed just yet, but that will change as of next episode. In the next episode, I want to start talking to you about the decoder, and notably how I managed to improve it compared to the previous decoder. Now, that episode will be... yeah, that. So I strongly advise you put on your thinking hats for that one, because we will be needing to dive into the darkest depths of the logic of shapes. How can shapes be built? How can they be deconstructed, analyzed? Which wiring setups can we conjure up to provide solutions to which problems, and so on. So, I hope you're excited. As always, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. Thank you for watching. I've been Bins. Have a great day, and then you and I will see each other again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.